Hello, I'm Lilian.
And I'm Benita.
And welcome to the Girl to Woman podcast. On today's episode, we have a very, very exciting topic that we're going to be discussing.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about life after the wedding. So you know how we get all excited about the wedding? Well, there's still life after
it.
And that's what we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah.
So Benita, how was life after the wedding? Like post-wedding blues, how was that for you?
You know how people say, the first year is going to be tough. You guys will quarrel. People try and adjust. And I was like, okay. But I dated my husband for 4 years, I think 5. But I'd known him for 9 years because we went to the same university together. So I was really expecting us to be going at each other, But everything was really smooth. He was a yes person.
Wow.
He was a yes person. These days,
Why is it was?
I know these days a little bit of, a lot of yes, but some no's. And I'm like, oh my God, you said no to me. But in our first year, he was really a yes person. I wonder, that's fine. So we didn't quarrel. We were not even quarreling. We were in our heydays. We were enjoying each other. I think the second year, we were also enjoying each other. So the early stages of our marriage was so sweet. It was really cool. It was so romantic. And then the fourth year, I don't remember what happened. And then he told me a no. And I was like, he told me a no. Things have changed. I got so dramatic. I was like, no, that means there's something wrong. Because he was not necessarily a no person, So God is helping us now. There are good yeses now. And some no's still, but we're surviving.
I think you might just be the exception. Or maybe this happens, but we have a renowned marriage coach with us, Bisi, to help us, dissect this. But I think my experience was very different. I was going to ask you that. What was yours like? I think it was a typical, what you expect, the, cohabiting and all that. This is how I like things. This is how I don't like things. It was just where loggerheads. I do my thing, you do your thing. So it was a typical first year. But funny enough, it got easier. It got, as time went on, we were able to sort of communicate better and all that. But I think the biggest thing for me that I noticed was that post-wedding depression or post-wedding blues. Is that a real thing?
Well, yeah, it is a real thing when you begin to wonder, how did I get here? In fact, I think I did the post once with somebody looking around and thinking, how did I get here? Especially if it's a rough first year. I think that's what you're not likely to get depressed if you are enjoying each other, if your spouse is making you feel like a princess, like the woman in his world. But if it's rough, I think it comes from the confusion, no, it's not supposed to be like this. Yeah. Why is it like this? Have I made a mistake? Is this the biggest mistake of my life? Why are we here? What are we doing? Why are we fighting? We're supposed to be in love, So yes, that can easily, just throw you into some kind of depression. Also because most people don't really talk about their marriage practically as far, this is what happened to me. This is common. This is normal. Don't, blow it out of proportion. Don't personalize this. So you might feel really alone in those early years.
And I think as well, personally, because of all the attention you get as a bride, during the wedding. And all of a sudden, nobody's calling you. Your parents, your mom that was calling you 10 times, why should we call you? She doesn't have your time. So you just have to feel. And there's this thing, because I remember even when I got married, the pastor was saying, the priest was saying that don't disturb your children or make sure you
let them be.
My parents and my in-laws took that literally. No calls. No, and then we're calling even my husband is calling his parents what happened? Just fast it. The priest said we should not disturb you. Come on, it was so strange. I actually found it very strange. So I think those things add to it. Did you have any form of blues after your wedding, or were you still on a high for a while?
I think it was funny. I think I was on a high for a while because after we got married, I was actually my husband's crush. He had a huge crush on me. So by the time we got married, I was like, but I actually married her, and I was like, let me enjoy this moment. But and then a week after, because we stayed in a hotel all through that wedding week.
That's nice.
And then after a week after, we now went for a honeymoon in Dubai. So it was just like la la land for a bit. And then maybe we were also in a new place. It was just us both. So we're just really enjoying, being together. I think that by the time we go back to our house, back up, that's when I was like, this life is done. And that's always breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I have to cook all the time. And then we had to now start cleaning the house and all of that. But there was still some la-la moment. La-la moment for me really is you're just living in the clouds, really.
Enjoying each other.
Those moments were there for a bit. I think that reality actually sets in when I got pregnant, because that's when it was like, oh my God, how's everything changing and all of that. Yeah. So I think, for a bit, I was really in La La Land.
That's good.
I think mine was worsened because of the pandemic as well, because I literally got married just before the pandemic. Like, where the last wedding was in February, and then as soon as we got back inside the house,
locked in.
We were locked for like 2 years, literally, because they refused to release us. So we were, I felt like we're just stuck, like, but that had its upsides and its downsides.
Yes, definitely.
But the good things, at the end, we came out victorious.
Victorious and still together.
A lot of marriages actually crashed during that
pandemic. A lot of marriages crashed. Yeah. You would hear some really funny reasons why people were like, you know what, I'm back in my bag.
I was really busy.
Yeah, I was. I feel like
you were really
saying
busy. That's the reason for a marriage.
They were actually saying things like, because a husband and because for these popular ones I knew, celebrities, because they didn't really used to see each other. So when they come back from set, it's almost like, oh, let's enjoy ourselves again before you're gone again. But this time there was nowhere to go to again. So things that they were not even noticing in the home before, they started noticing. They started picking quarrels, and before I knew what was going on, it got out of hand, and they decided to go their separate ways. It was just weird.
Post-wedding, there's a lot of new challenges and new experiences, but especially for a woman, because that identity shift, I know, like, I felt it as well. Like, it's even till now, I feel like when you call me, like, if you call my surname, it's like, oh, my husband's surname, I'm still trying to understand. Oh yeah, it's like you have to call my own surname, my dad's surname, and then call me. It's like a real shift. How do new brides manage that? Because I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like you do feel it. You feel that change in identity.
Oh, well, when it comes to name change, I think now it's a conversation that couples need to be having. Do we even want to change? Do I want to change my name?
Exactly.
So that important fact must be agreed upon. Yes, where it should be a conversation that we're open to, where somebody can decide that, you know what, I'd rather keep my name. Especially because not just even in the identity documentation, all of that is a hassle as well. But if you agree to then take your husband's name, right, he does come with some form of, most people in my counseling room, most women feel like marriage changes you. And there's some kind of identity loss, when you get into marriage, when you become somebody's wife. I think he also even said something, oh, now I'm somebody's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You see, which is something you didn't have to bother about. And that can create some nagging thoughts around, well, should I? So what I have is that people are a bit resistant, because they don't know what to do with that feeling, so they're trying to create balance. Yes, I want to be somebody's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you find that every once in a while, you unconsciously create some form of resistance. Like, I don't want them to take it for granted. I bear your name now, but, sometimes I just want to feel like myself. So you do things to try to create that path for yourself that says, I'm still me, but some people embrace it, fully. Some people love the thrill of just changing. Some people look forward to it, but it's different for many people. But yes, indeed, there can be that sense of, oh, is it still me? I'm somebody's wife now. Do I have my own thing? Especially if you have a partner who is not like cognizant of this thing and able to ask you questions. How are you? How are you feeling?
How are you feeling?
Do you feel good? That happens.
I think that's definitely true, and it's definitely important, like what you mentioned about having that conversation before. I think even before you get married, because you don't want a situation where, as a man, you're expecting your wife to change, and then you find out after the wedding that that was never in her thoughts. Like, it becomes an issue. So I think people take it for granted, but I think it's a conversation that should be had before you get married, just so that everybody's on the same page, and that's one less thing to worry about. Because there's so many other things to worry about when you get married. Not the least, finances. Finances. My question: should a woman have to give up her financial identity when she gets married? Would that help the marriage, or does that bring issues?
Well, that's why we should talk. Because the idea of giving up, right? We seem to be living with rules that were created for a different time. So
that's deep.
When you talk about finances, in the past, when a woman wasn't giving up her financial identity, she was actually taking on a financial identity, because in that time, she could not have her own money. She could not have a house. She could not buy land. You can't own property. You need her husband. You need a man. You need to be married for that kind of security. So that then was necessary, that you come under your husband, that even if you have something, you will have to pull it together because that's actually how you get recognized. Do you see? But we are in a time where you already own your own. Before you get married, you have your own car, you have your own money, so couples should talk together. Now, it's no longer about, should I give up my own? It's about what works for us. Do you see? What goals do we have? My husband and I, for instance, we have different seasons where money looks different. So joint, individual, joint pulse, joint spending. Sometimes not joint pulse, but joint spending. Just sometimes joint sort of accountability. So it looks different in different seasons. But it's not about, a woman should not give up her financial identity. It's even impossible because money is created from value. So if a woman has value, she can never not have money. Do you see? Yes. So the idea that, I'm going to be giving up, no, that's a thought that should flow from, how would you give up? Would you stop creating value? Would you stop thinking? Would ideas stop coming to you? So unless the man now says, you know what, I don't want my wife to do this, which is also valid. Do you see? But make sure you know that beforehand so that you are marrying somebody who's exactly like you, who want the same things, and that work for you.
I wanted to know, I know that for me, before I got married, I would watch, and shout out to those people who watch Korean movies here.
I do. I started during the lockdown.
I'm just like, they're just chill and sweet. But like, you watch Korean movies, or you watch those romantic movies that will teach you, or that will tell you that your husband will come and prepare breakfast for you on the bed. He will do all the chores.
Reality. Your husband would do all that.
I take it personal.
That's like an
metaverse. Maybe it's metaverse.
They're not with us.
And then people some people actually go into marriage with that mindset because of the things that they have seen or watched on TV. And they're just going like, my husband's going to make breakfast for me when I wake up in the morning. He's going to be so romantic. Well, let me not say newsflash. It's not like there are some little elements that might be realistic for you, but not all of it is true.
Absolutely.
So when people are going into their first year in marriage, what are those realistic expectations that they need to have so that they don't start quarreling and fighting each other?
I said to someone yesterday, she said to me, sometimes I just want to be able to be in bed. Maybe it's a weekend, we're just lazing on the bed and we're cuddling and then we can have sex. And I said, are you assuming that you would want to have sex after cuddling? Because the reality is that sometimes you don't want to even be held. You don't want to have sex, maybe because you're thinking of something else. There's work, there's life, But I feel like, personally, even for me, the romance part was a big shock. I would say to my husband, why are we not friends? We're not friends. You're not romantic. You should be my best friend. And then I'll cry. I'll cry. Because that's what they say. Marry your best friend. Your partner should be.
That's true.
So I'm like, why are we not best friends? Why are we not talking? And my husband was very mean in those days. He would say things like, well, I'm a friendly person. If I'm not friendly to you, then it must be you. And I'm like, no way. I'm friendly, Anyway, it was really tough because I would cry. I would even lie in bed like Cinderella. I wasn't working at the time. He was working. Now, you'd expect that somebody who's going to work to be, you come and kiss your new bride and say, bye, baby. The next time, is the door. Bam.
He didn't even look at
my goodness. Then I'll be like, wait, what? So now I'm awake. So, realistically, it's important that you understand that these things are developed, right? It can be, you can be best friends, but you have to build a friendship. And marriage is notorious for actually getting in the way of friendship. Do you see? Because you want to correct things. You want to tell them what to do. You feel like they have to be a certain way. Your husband has to be a certain way. So you're always going to be like talking about him. Do you see? And he's always going to feel like if you're always complaining, so that gets in the way of friendship. You don't tell your friends what to do all the time. Sometimes all you do is like, dare, silly you're crazy. And everybody laughs. But in marriage, you want that person to listen. You don't want them to take it lightly. So that gets in the way. So I feel like realistically, it's okay if you want breakfast in bed, but understand that some of these things are a function of personality. Sometimes you have looked at somebody who has a personality for something and you have assumed that that's what all couples do. So you see somebody on the gram, they love to travel together. But then you're with a partner who is not adventurous at all. And you expect that we'll travel. Somebody who doesn't know how to cook. For instance, my husband would even say that if I put my hand in water, my hand will peel. Now, how would that person cook? How would he ever serve me breakfast in bed? 9 years later when my husband actually went to a cooking school to learn how to cook. So imagine that for 9 years,
you've been
no hope of breakfast in bed, you know?
Wow.
So I feel like realistically, go in with a mindset to build. Even if you already have it. Some people have a courtship where they're buddies, they're best friends, they gist, they talk, they do all of these things already. But go in and continue to build. That builder's mindset is what will not make you hopeless. Where you're thinking, why is it not happening? If it's not happening, put it now, inject it. In my case, we were not friends. Well, I thought we weren't friends because, of course, all the complaining was getting in the way. Yes. So what did I do? Instead of complaining, started to build. So instead of lying in bed, I'm awake. But I'll close my eyes because I thought it's sweet when the person comes to kiss you. Yeah. So now what I did was I'll sit up. When he wakes up, dressing up for work, I'll sit up and we're talking. Hey, that shirt is nice. Oh, that tie is good. And so that created conversation. When it was time for him to go to work, I'm down, I'm walking him to the door. It's easier to give each other a hug when you're walking each other to the door than if I'm expecting him to, he's not going to hug me. Then I follow him to the door. He's not going to hug me. Then I say it, oh, you're not even going to hug your wife. Then he turns to hug, now don't bother, it's already too late.
Women, we have
all of that drama, you know. So if you're a builder, there's no room for drama. You're just going to put in your relationship what you want.
That just emphasizes the role that it takes to, like in a relationship. It takes to in a marriage. Like sometimes, let's be honest, as women, we can be very, let him do the work. Especially when it comes to romance. It's always the guy. It's but we have our own part to play, or at least make it easier for them to, to come through. And with regards to also cohabiting, space, they talk about how men like their space. I don't think women understand what they're talking about. Which one is space? We got just like what you mentioned. We should be cuddling. We should be together all the time. What advice do you have for women who just feel like, my husband should be next to me? How do we give them the space that they need? And even for some of us who actually enjoy our own space, how do you manage that first few months where it's like someone is in your space? Like, how does that fit?
Strangely, that's me. I want my space. Don't touch me. Don't why are you touching me? Leave me alone. But I would say that it's important that you know each other. Love is supposed to grow through knowledge. But a lot of times we're not necessarily taking information in. Okay. So you're observing that your husband loves to have sometimes himself, but you are coming and saying, shouldn't I be here with you? Do you see? You're just going to continue to complain, and then you're always going to be opposing each other. But once you also present something that you can give to that person, I know you want to have this time. Do you see? I'll be back in 30 minutes. They would also take the information in, she wants to come and hang out. She wants to cuddle. And then get ready for you. Do you see? So I would say that knowledge, every interaction provides you information to get to know your partner. And in those early years, that's what you're doing. Figuring things out, getting to know this person. What do they like? What do they not like? And then begin to sort of give to each other what that person wants, and then ask for what you need. Do you see? But if you want to discard what this person is talking about, I like my space, and then you're thinking, why? We're married. We're married. We're a couple. What you create is that they will get defensive because it's now like a power struggle or a clash of ideas. And when we're in that place, it's the ego state. Even beyond, we're not thinking about the marriage. We're only thinking about the superiority of our thoughts. So if you and I start arguing now about, that's blue. If you think it's pink, it will not be about, you can leave me to figure it out later. It will be about, actually, I know what I'm saying. It's pink. And so we get lost in that defense. And then I'm like, why are you so defensive? Like, can't I talk to you? Am I not your wife? I should be able to tell you things. And the guy is like, am I not your husband? Shouldn't I be able to tell you? So you see, the argument is no longer about the connection that we wanted to have in the first place. So I would say, listen to each other. Right. And also just take information in. If you are the woman and you're married to somebody who loves their space, or you want your space, you also have to be proactive. When you take information, it makes you predictable, or it makes your partner predictable. That predictability is what makes you proactive. So for instance, I love my space, right? I know that my husband is more like a cat. He wants to touch, he wants to hug you, he wants to find you around the house. So sometimes I'm proactive enough to give that to him, such that when I'm missing, I can be missing. Do you see? So I'm cuddling. I'm like, oh, where are you? Where are you? I want to, 2 hours time, I will be in the room. Nobody should come and look for me. But hey, let's spend time together because I know that he would need it. You see? Yes. So there are times when also he has learned to actually understand that and, the two can coexist. Yeah. So take information in and let your partner become predictable. That way you become proactive. But don't go with, this is how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said something about your husband 9 years after he's now
learning to cook.
School. And I think that when it comes to like cooking and other household chores, a lot of homes are suffering. Some women literally feel like they have the responsibility of just killing themselves when it comes to household chores, making sure children are good, making sure the house is clean. There's some men that go out and then they come back and if the house is, untidy, they're going to scream down the house. And then the woman just feels used. She just feels like all she's there for is just to clean and cook. Take care of everyone else while, the man just walks around and all of that. Now, is it 50, when it comes to house chores, is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Is it 100-100?
Or do we just outsource it? At this point,
I wouldn't think that you have given us the answer. But
right, Sabi.
What should a woman do if that's her reality right now? If that's her reality right now, if she's feeling overwhelmed, I feel like she's doing everything and not getting support from her husband. Even if there's a maid, should there be anything that a man should be able to do?
And how can we encourage them as well?
And how can you encourage if you know who you are married to?
What I would just say is if you're single, please shine your eye. Make sure that you're really talking about this. If it's important to you, do not compromise on it. Just, stick with it. Because all this medicine after death of how can we help him, it takes a long time. Also, you can't really force anybody. Do you see? So having said that, let's come to how can you actually work around it. I think that there's a part that we don't always talk about, which is a part where sometimes women do too much. Not because anybody is asking them to, but because they do too much. Do you see? So first things first, take a look. Take stock and look at why am I doing what I'm doing? Do you see this breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Who's really asking for it? Do you see? So some newlyweds go into marriage and they want to make all these nice things. You serve with dishes. By all means, see if you can sustain it. Go on. Do you see? But make sure this thing I'm doing, is it really because this is what this person needs? Do you see? Can we start off just talking about what do we need basically? Do you understand? So I feel like don't start what you really sustain in that sense. But also once you take stock and you find that you do not actually have superhero abilities, then don't be one. Do your best and leave the rest. Do you see? Sometimes your partner will come home and like, why is this shirt here? Now, what will upset you is your irritation around the fact that he's not around. He has not been home. He doesn't know what you're doing. But he is really just saying, why is that shirt here? Maybe he's not emotionally intelligent enough not to ask. But sometimes people just are clueless. Do you see? The only thing you can control is your response. Why is this shirt here? Oh, is there? Can you pick it, please? Do you see? Wow. Just hand it over there. Or you say, okay, I'll pick it up because I haven't had time. Answer the question directly. Don't get worked up or in your emotions where you say, why is shit there? Oh gosh. Then you don't respond. What have you doing? Or you just go silent. And the person is like, I just asked about the shirt naively. Do you see? So take stock and observe yourself. How am I responding to things? How much am I doing? Am I supposed to be doing this much? Can I outsource anything? And this outsourcing, really, is it a problem? Some people assume it's a problem because the person hasn't really said anything. For me, for instance, when my husband would not wash the dishes because he would say, my hand will peel. Now, who am I to say his hand will not peel? Which is what I did. I would say, how can you say your hand will peel?
What kind of,
who says that? Who does that?
Or we do that in laws. Who does that?
Maybe I should be paying attention to my own hand.
My hand is not peeling.
Do you see what I mean? So somebody is telling me, my hand will peel. And I'm thinking, No, your hand will not be. You're just lazy. You're just. So I'm going in attacking the person when I should be talking to them about. Oh, your hand will be okay. What can we do? Do you want to wear gloves? Do you see? Do you want to buy an apron? You know, some. But I was just too angry. Do you see? And then I will now vex and go and do it. Do you see? Or maybe I've asked somebody. Another problem is I've asked him to do something for me, and he's not doing it at my time. Then I would now be angry and go and do it. No, you are giving yourself too much. And in the end, what the person will say is, did I say I will not do it? Yes. So be patient. Understand that people are different. The fact that you want to do something now does not mean it has to be done now. Do you see? So you also have to learn that maturity and emotional intelligence to be able to look away, to be able to actually allow things be. So there are different angles to it. Instead of saying, oh, somebody is just overworking you. There are those, which you need to sit down, talk, go to counseling for. But other than that, we just need to really take stock and change the way that we approach these things.
Yes. One of the things I've learned today, especially about the first year of marriage, is the need for respect. Like, we go into marriage thinking, come and serve me. This is what I expect from you. Yeah. But then when you go into marriage, especially that first year, you need to start thinking of how can I be of help as well? How can I? And also respecting you. So I respect your time. I respect your efforts. I respect your opinions. I respect everything. I respect you as a person. Because I think it's a lot of what I'm hearing is like disrespect that causes this. Like, your hand is going to be, so my hand is going to be. But if you're just, just a bit more empathy, a bit more kindness that we should show each other. Because we're all just trying to figure it out. Like, you're newlywed, you don't know. But then I think our fears, we just project it on our spouses. Like, oh, this is not what I expected. I think most of us go into marriage thinking, I know he's going to mess up. He might just mess. You're just waiting for the spouse, whether it's your wife or your husband to mess up. And that's not the idea. You will both mess up. That's the reality. You're going to mess up. He's going to mess up. But how do you resolve that? So go into your first year of marriage with respect, respecting yourself, respecting your spouse.
Your differences.
Your differences. Yes, and your opinions and your time. I think time is so like undervalued in terms of how valuable some of us value our time. You go and you feel like, oh, you should cuddle all the time. Or you should be, everybody has what they do with their time before they met you. So when you go into that relationship, respect their time. Do they like work? Do they like do they have hobbies? Let them keep being them in the way that you are supportive, but also that merges both of you together.
But are you also saying that we should time cuddling too?
No, don't time it, but come to an arrangement. No, come to an arrangement. Don't expect.
Cuddle on.
Don't go with your preconceived expectations from Korean movies.
Exactly.
Indian movies.
I got myself there.
Or anything. Come open. Come ready to serve. Because marriage is a call to service, they say. Come ready to serve.
And come teachable. So.
Come teachable. And this is both ways, by the way.
I always say about expectation is kind of like holding a box filled with your own thought, what you want, and say, take, fulfill them for me. Do you see? But if you just simply make a switch from, oh, this is what I expect of you, to this is what I want. Now, when it's a desire, you are likely to be more empathetic and to be more understanding of the fact that this person may not know how to do it, how to fulfill this need, how to help me with this. And then I'm able to guide them and teach them. Take love languages, for instance. When we got married, my husband is one of his primary love languages is physical touch. Mine is words of affirmation. So if he wants to say thank you to me, he'll give me a hug. Do you see? And I'm thinking, I don't want that. Tell me, what are you saying? So when he's not giving, I'm like, because I already know that he's not going to say the words. But he's not going to say the words because it's not his style. He would rather just give you a hug, squeeze you. He will, even if he's going to speak, he'll say, you know what? Is it possible for you to enter inside me? And I'm thinking, what for? Like, what is the idea? What is the thought that led you to think, oh, this person must be so, I must love this person so much that I want them inside my body. Say the words, say I love you. So, strangely, this morning, I sat beside him and he looked at me and said, oh, your makeup is nice, Sha. I said, when you say shy, it's like, I can't be bothered. It's like, I can't be bothered to say it, but your makeup is nice. So he was looking at me like, Oh, I said, babe, look at me. I mean, if I'm beautiful and the makeup is nice, you want to keep your eyes on me. And it's like, oh, now that whole conversation, navigating it without offense is where the switch between expectation and desire comes in. I desire that when you look at me and say, oh, your makeup is nice, you actually stay.
Yeah,
because that tells me that you have looked at me. Do you see? Not and you are talking to me. So communicating that with love, saying, babe, look at me, and laughing, making light of the conversation without already the person feeling as if they've done something wrong. They wanted to compliment you. Now they are in the court of law. Do you see? So that's where once you make that shift, this is what I want. So in those days when we started to grow, when my husband gives me a hug, I have to take it for what it is. I will go into that embrace, release it, accept the hug. Then when I'm done or when he's done, I can say, oh, well, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about? Do you see? And it's like, I love you. I'm like, oh, what led you to that thought? Do you see? What were you thinking about me? Kind of like questioning that comes from my skill of being able to speak a lot that I'm using to now draw out those things. And he will say, oh, it's because I love you. Sometimes say, do I have to talk? I'm like, just try. It would mean so much to me. Like I said to him this morning, when he then said, okay, your makeup is nice, you're beautiful. I said, that really means a lot to me. Wow. That's stuck with me more. Do you see? And then, well, wow. And we didn't fight, and this is 9 years after.
Is that wow?
So you can imagine. Wow. So just make that switch. Nobody has ever been a husband before or a wife. Well, really just figuring this out
together. I wanted to talk to me about in-laws. In-laws are, I think that before I got married, I had watched, well, I'm not even sure why I'm always watching. But I had watched Nollywood, and we all know the name. We all know the person in my head already. When you want to talk about in-laws, especially mother-in-laws that are wicked. Right?
Yeah.
There's one already in my head. I don't want to call him. So before I got married, I was already thinking in my head, oh, my mother-in-law, how's she going to be? I hope she's going to be good. But thank God, because my mom really was one person who instilled so much like boldness and faith in us that, regardless of what you hear outside, yours is going to be different. And so the more I got to know my mother-in-law, the more I got to realize that Nollywood just affected my mindset. Like my reality was completely different from what I saw. But there are actually some people who do not have fantastic stories to tell about their mother-in-laws or about their in-laws generally. How do you balance that relationship with your in-laws in such a way that they know their place and that you also own your own place and your own home without any unnecessary interference from your in-laws? Because we know that even in Nigerian settings, sometimes in-laws can just, affect you. So how do you own your own
can
space?
I even add to that, like the role of the husband as well in managing, because you can't do it alone. You can't manage your in-laws alone. You become the enemy. So what role do men play and husbands play to manage?
I think that's the first part where you actually know that it's not really. When it comes to certain issues, you have to look at your partner. Do you see? And ideally, your partner should be able to actually sort of put things in the right place. Or at the very least, you guys should have a conversation about what's important to you. Hopefully you have that kind of relationship. But if I'm being realistic, people are not that mature where, like I said, we're figuring this out. So you marry a person who has never really stood up to his mom. How is he going to stand up to her for you?
That is true.
How?
That is
true. Do you see? So you then say, my husband should stand up now. Talk to you. Like, why is he not defending? He doesn't know how to. What he wants to do is, me, I've lived with her for 30 years. I understand her. You too, just understand her. Like, she's like this, let's just live and let live. And you, as a woman, you're thinking, that's not a plan. Why? Because it's not a plan because you want to be able to decide and judge your husband's love based on how he's able to stand up for you. Because that's what is being purported, like, oh, he should stand up for you. But he may not know how to. Do you see? So that conversation where you still sit down and say, you know what, this is what's happening. I mean, it may not be on purpose, right? But what do you think about this? As opposed to going and saying, can you see what your mother did? Or just really giving that attitude. Talk together, right? Hear the person. When you hear your husband, you will know that, can this one fight for me? Do you see? You will know, and can this one speak for me? Do you understand? Or is he trying to run away from the situation too? Some people have very, toxic relationship with their parents as well. Do you see that they're really just managing? They don't want any trouble. They just want to be respectful. Anything, fine. So long as I'm not in your face. But you want this person to go talk to their parents. It may be a bit hard. So make sure that you understand the dynamic of things. But there's also that bias that people come to their relationship with that, in-laws will just be like bad. And we don't understand that. I think that another fundamental problem is when we think about boundary setting, I think we think about it in terms of people should just know. So this is my boundary. Just don't cross it. But that's not how boundary is. Boundary is something that you want to do that has nothing to do with the other person. What they should do is what I will do, which is if you do cross this, this is what I will do, not this is what you should do. Because boundary is about values. So take, for instance, now, you said some people, they'll just come. If you have a mother-in-law or a sister-in-law who believes that we are one big family,
she's coming in.
If I married, right, in fact, you can come to my house anyhow. She will come to your house anyhow because that's her value. That's how she sees, like, that's what she believes in. And you are thinking, no, my bedroom is my holy place. My haven, nobody should walk in. And so when you open the door or when you're in your room, if that person wants to come in, they will come in without knocking. Because for them, they don't hold the value that you hold around that room. So what do you do in terms of boundary setting? You lock the door behind you. Do you see? So instead of allowing, offense, you have to be responsible towards the relationship enough to know your boundary and to actually put it there yourself. Do you see? So you lock the door. Now that helps you to create some kind of like stopgap so that when they open the door, you're like, oh, Shola, oh, is that you? Oh, I'll be right out. I'm in the bathroom. Do you see? I'll see you out. Then you can go out and Shola's like, oh, why did you lock the door? Oh, I just always lock the door because I like to know who's coming. Now I'm expressing myself. I'm telling Shola this is what I like. But I'm not saying it with animosity. It's just information. Do you see? I still love Shola because I'm responsible towards that relationship. If they're my husband's family, they're my family as well. So Shola's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, you were looking for me. Hey, baby, you look beautiful, And that goes on. But people are not willing to do that. Just want Shola to know that just respect people's room. Just respect a married couple's privacy. Why are you always coming to our house? Instead of you to sit with Shola and say, Shola, you know what? What do we do? Do you see? Sometimes when you want to come, I may not be around. My sister-in-law came to my house once. I think she was in the neighborhood and I was sleeping on a Sunday morning. My husband had gone to church. I didn't go because I was tired. Then my sister-in-law called me and say she's around and she's coming to my house. I'm like, you cannot show up. Then she said her mom is coming as well.
Like no parent.
On a day where I have no food
and
at home.
Tired as well.
And tired. So I thought to myself, well, she's going to come anyway. When she came, I came out and I'm like, you know what? I am sick. I am sleepy. What are you going to eat? Can you cook something by yourself? Can you get somebody to buy you this, but I want to sleep? Do you see? Or can you give me an hour? That's how you let people know that they actually can look to you to how to treat you. They begin to pick up the vibe. But there's also something else to pick on, which is your genuine interest and care in them and your maturity. But when she came, I opened the door.
I'm like giving attitude.
Giving her attitude. She's also going to return the same energy. So I feel like in a lot of ways, there are people who are like, negative people. But generally speaking, it's just that dimension of differences in values, in belief system that then create like, this disagreement and people.
I think what I've learned as well is like in first year of marriage especially and throughout marriage, but especially that first year, there's a lot of room for offense.
Yes.
Offense is going to raise ugly head.
Oh, wow.
Because of the differences.
Exactly.
It's inevitable. So be ready to be offended. I think pretty much be ready to be offended, but figure out in advance how you would manage that.
And I'll say that's what you call goodwill.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to give goodwill because this is your family. You're going to learn how to relate. Your family of origin has 25 years getting to know you, and some of us, our siblings are worse. Our parents, oh my goodness, they are worse. The person that gave me grief even was my mother in the early days of my marriage, not even my mother-in-law, my mother. So sometimes it is your own family. Do you see? So just make sure that when you're dealing with your in-laws, give them a lot of goodwill. It's a new relationship. Even if your mother-in-law says, you are my daughter now, you are daughter by arrival. Destination, you have arrived as a daughter. But becoming a daughter will be a journey.
Yes.
Do you see?
True.
You just say, oh, you are my son. Oh, you are like my son. We are family. Yes, we are family. Because it's both a destination and a journey. But in the journey, you still have to like learn the curves, find, okay, what does this person like? What do they not like? So that you can actually become That
we need to teach people how to love us. We need to teach people how, like what you said about boundaries. Like whether it's your spouse or your in-laws, you need to teach them. Don't walk up and down with an attitude saying, you are just like this, you're just like that, just judging everybody. Exactly. What efforts have you made for them to get to know who you are? And that could just make all the difference. Really just being vocal and also show kindness, show love. People are attracted to that. I feel like a lot of our generation, sometimes we go into marriage like what you said, that mother-in-law, I'm ready for you.
Yes.
It's not even matter.
Yes.
Exactly. That their mother-in-law will
exactly. So there's a bias.
There's
like you just
that bias. No, I know my husband will do this. No, you go in teachable, go in ready for kindness and agreements and love and unity. Don't go into fight anybody.
Well, you can't blame us. I always say again, which is where the social intelligence parts come in, where that defense, that bias, that resentment, where it comes from our collective evolution.
Okay.
So there are women that I know that have suffered in the hand of in-laws. Genuinely.
Yes, of course.
Do you see? There are people that it doesn't have to. I log on social media every day, and there's one story about some mother-in-law something. So based on that collective evolution, it just jumps at me, and I begin to project as though it happened to me. Do you see? So one of the ways that you educate yourself is to know that there's a collective trauma that women are going through. So that if you're a man, you're also able to be patient and not see it as such a big threat. What I find is that men are like now so averse to it. Like,
she's so different.
She's feminist.
She's a feminist.
This, that. But she's like that because she's on the defense. She's in self-preservation mode.
Women have had to do
men
that.
too, being feminists, it's because they're in self-preservation mode. They are now in that place where women have been so aggressive. Their partners have shouted, taken things overboard, and now they're thinking, it must be this feminism thing. So their guards are up before you even define the meaning of feminism. So we both must be aware what is happening to us based on the experiences of other people, so that we can decide what we want, and then extend to the other person grace that allows me to be the person to dissolve that threat. Do you see? So if you're threatened that, this man is going to do something to you, and I know that I'm not that man, it's not simple to just be the man that I say I am. But I'm busy now fighting you about thinking that I'm even the man that you think.
You instead of just showing you.
So that's the problem.
You're telling me you're the man, right? I'm just showing you.
So the same thing for a woman. You're like, I'm not the woman that you're saying. When you should be showing and be the one to heal that part where. And remove that threat so the person can relax and feel safe, So I feel like we must be aware of what's happening. Well, we were already married, So I feel like people who are getting married must even be more aware. Because I find that in dating is even worse.
I think doesn't that emphasize the importance of premarital counselling? Like how important is it for couples?
Very important. If you're a young person or you're about to be married and you're watching this, I'm sure in your head you're already thinking, wow, this relationship thing. So first things first, it's not by force. Don't marry if you don't want to. Really think about it. Really. Trust me. There's no marriage in heaven now. So
that's what people say to just like.
No. Genuinely, is there marriage? Benita, tell us. Maybe maybe she probably has plans of marrying her husband in heaven. But the truth is, there's no marriage in heaven, right? Which means that probably marriage is probably about what life is about, which is really coming to your best self, reconciliation to God, and all of that stuff. So make sure that you are able to also recognize that singleness or singlehood is a choice. It's part of the options. A single, being married. So that you are not thinking that marriage is just the next step. Now, if you decide to marry, don't assume that it would be something that you know how to do. You have to learn how to be married. You have to invest in knowledge, kind of like how you would learn how to be a coder. Or how to how we're doing tech now. Everybody's how to your formal education, how to be a doctor. And I always tell my premarital counseling couples when they come, I say, please do me a favor, take this formal education so that the example I use is if you're learning to code, when you go to the class and you learn to code, when you get home, you know you have to practice.
Yes.
Then you know you also have to like watch other YouTube videos. You have to like check other articles out. Just what are other people saying about, because you want to be good and you want to do it fast. That's how you should approach this. You know, like formal education.
Wow.
So that what you are hearing, you're actually taking it in and learning more about it, reading more about it, practicing. So premarital counseling has to be that formal education that you take towards marriage. Then when you get married, it's gone. You will now continue to learn because the continuous culture of continuous learning.
Do people change in marriage? Because you'll hear people say, oh, he wasn't like this before. Oh, she wasn't like this before. And I don't even think I recognize who this person is. Again, for instance, you know, you could probably, for some people, what might have attracted them to their spouse was, oh, he was very romantic. Or, oh, he used to pay attention. Or, he's a good listener. And then you get married, and all of those things that was like one of the major, you know, factors for you to decide that was the person you want to spend your life with. And then you almost like you can't find it anymore. So is it that people actually change? Or
was it never even there?
Was it that it was never
you seeing wrong?
Or is it that the other person has brought out another side to you that, you know?
Don't you think? Did you change?
No, I think it was always the same. I think you just didn't do your homework to really dig deep. And that's where premarital counseling comes in. Did you go and search for that information? People can change, but I think most of the time, if the person was not that person, you just maybe didn't do a bit more work to find out who they are.
I evolved.
Yeah.
I think I evolved.
Or people should evolve for the better.
For the better.
Like,
not
something bad like that. I don't think if it was there, it was there. But you just didn't go for counseling or really sit down.
Changed. I hear that. You have changed.
So we're talking about change in two ways now, the positive and the negative. And of course, you know, take for instance, say somebody is said to me, she's breaking up with her partner now for a reason, which is that is easily manipulated, or he changes his mind easily. He doesn't have a mind of his own, basically. Now they're breaking up because something big happened. Now she's in counseling, you know, figuring that out. And then I said to her that counseling should have come before, which is that there are, of course, now that we're talking, there are so many things that the guy had done that actually pointed to the fact that he changes his mind easily.
Wow.
But it wasn't recorded for her. And that's not because she wasn't looking enough. It's just because she does not know what to look for.
Okay.
Do you see? Yes. So when people say, oh, the signs were there, how did you miss it? I always like to empathize and to be a bit more accommodating of people. Like, sometimes people don't just know what. It's not that, oh, you missed a sign. Sometimes you're like, how did I miss the sign? It's not you. It's not just like, oh, you were ignorant or you were careless.
You're saying love.
You're saying love. It's that actually you didn't know what to look out for. You yourself, do you even know yourself? You know, so, but clearly, just from talking, there were so many things that this guy has done the same thing that you're breaking up now for. You should have broken up a while back. Do you see? And so now that you are now like in pain, that this breakup, how can you know, so we have to become, so I feel like people should invest in their self-awareness. Do you see? That way, you will know yourself enough to be able to know, okay, this thing is not what I want.
Like what aligns.
Do you understand? This thing doesn't align with me. But if you're not really paying attention, I'll give you another example. Somebody says to me, oh, you know what, this guy, I'm into purity. I want to abstain from sex. I don't want to have sex. I don't want to kiss anything, you know, and I don't want to expose my body. Now I'm dating somebody who is into women in that way, but he's everything I want, but that.
Oh, wow.
Do you see?
How is he everything you want then? How is he not? How is he?
Now the truth is that he's everything she wants, because she wants a fine guy, she wants a handsome guy, she wants maybe he's tall, maybe he's dark, you know, all that things on a list, which are not necessarily like in that sense. But you are looking at it as a married person, like, hey, this thing is big, it's big. In your head, you're like, no, this is big, this is small, you know. So if you do not find out what are your own core values, you will not know the one to rank, prioritize, you know. So I feel like self-awareness is key. But then to answer the question of change, people do change positively and negatively. But it's not that it's personal. Do you see? is that we all have a cycle of learning and growing that can either go this way or that way. And it's not over. It's just always going. So if I change for the negative now, it doesn't mean that I can still change for the positive. Do you see later? It's my journey. But it becomes a problem when someone else is along the journey with me and they don't like that. And so it disturbs them. So now, what if I were single, a path that I would have just gone on, suffered, enjoyed, whatever, somebody else is now complaining about it. So I feel like with change, don't assume that you can change anybody. If you want them to change for the positive, you cannot change them. Or at the very least, they can change for you, but they don't want to change because of you.
Okay.
So if you say, I don't like this, most people will be like, okay, so if I never change you, does that mean you won't love me? So they're looking for the acceptance, but it doesn't mean they cannot change. Do you see? That's changing because of you. But for you, people can get into such a loving relationship with you and then swear that, what, because of you. So, in fact, I'm not going to do that again. So that happens, but it's sentimental. Do you see? And if you don't have that relationship that supports it in that sentimental way, it may appear like people are not changing, but people are always changing. In fact, the whole life, the whole world, the whole earth is always changing. So I'll say that just know that you can't change people, or at the very least, your words are not enough. Your words are not enough to cause it. So the fact that I say, Benita, stop wearing black, is not enough to say Benita will change. It can spark up something. It can be a conversation. But if I respect myself and I understand how people learn and grow and I respect people, I will not come and say, Benita, you need to stop wearing black. I'll come and ask questions. Oh, why do you wear black? Do you like it? Is it your favorite color? Do you see? I may be surprised. Benita may even say, I don't even know if I just wear black. And I'm like, oh, okay. Have you tried yellow? Do you think, but because the conversation is not imposing the person is a bit more open. Do you see? To hear you. And I already know that my words are like seeds. So they can think on it later. And because there's no defense, nothing, they can now say tomorrow they wear yellow. But if I come and say, Benita, why are you wearing black? Tell me, what would your reaction be?
Defensive.
Who are you? So that's also a part of that change process, but ultimately just really be in a space where you want to love your partner, respect their differences and give it time. People always change their lives anyway.
Thank you so much. That is such like wisdom.
Well, it's like we just had a class.
I know, right? Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you. Benita, I'm sure you've learned.
I've learned so much. Yeah, I have learned. I've learned.
I've jot things down.
One of the main things I've learned is really empathy. It's just really giving your partner space and room to grow and develop. You mentioned that just now, like people are always changing. Once they change once, don't go and start they've changed. It's the end of our marriage. Give them space to evolve and support that journey, support that evolution. Because
we are learning.
I think also give your spouse grace because a lot of the time, it's very easy to start comparing. That's how. Especially if you have friends who also gist you about their friends, you're like, that's how my friend.
On social media,
you even need friends. My friend's friend got had this, and then your husband who has actually done quite a number of things for you to. You're just telling him now, wow, you should be able to do better now. And then he's just
we don't
like,
talk
oh,
like
wow.
that. I think that when you start, saying things like that, you're just looking for trouble. I think a lot of kindness.
And even if you don't say it, if you think it, comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes.
You don't need to say it. I remember one episode in my marriage. I think I must have seen one of those posts on Instagram where one lady was just extolling the virtues of her husband, how he's a praying man, yada, yada, yada. And then I looked at that before I slept. Do you know that when I woke up in the morning, I didn't see my husband beside me. And I'm thinking, where is he? I'm sure he's in the living room. Maybe he's watching TV. Or pressing his phone or something. Yeah, true to it. When I got there, he was watching TV. And this was around 5 or 6 or so. He was watching TV. And the guy, not knowing what's just looking at me. In my head, I'm like, look at this one. You can't be praying.
Your mates are praying.
You can't be praying. And I sat down and I'm like, let's just pray. Now, you see, all that attitude, the person already knew. And it was the night before. It wasn't even the morning. Let us pray. Now, my husband was really funny with this. He agreed. We started praying, we sang, and he started praying for me. So he started praying prayers about the heart, asking God, because he's like, hey, you better calm down, don't kill yourself.
Pray for your heart.
Don't kill. So as in, I felt so convicted, but I'm like, okay. So he was praying for me and saying, God, please help our heart, help us to be content, help us to love, like whatever. He got it, but I realized upon checking, where did that come from? It's just from reading somebody's post and all of a sudden feeling as if mine's not good enough. Do you see? But everybody has something.
Yes.
Even the best relationships will have things that they would have to grow into the unconditional form.
Yes.
There will be something that, you have to just love about your partner, accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
At least one thing. Yeah. So if we all have that one thing, when you look at people on social media or just see people living their life, ask yourself, might they be doing it in spite of that difference?
Yes.
Once you can give room for that question and look differently, like, this person is loving her husband despite having differences. What does that say to me?
Yeah.
God love your own.
God love your own differences.
Despite your own differences.
Of course, we're not talking about like when somebody's abusing you, beating you. No. Just every day, like
every day,
if they are beating you, please.
Goings.
Reports. I think also that love has a language. Marriage has a language. Like there's a language for marriage, which is like respect, loyalty, not comparing your spouse to anybody, and being your spouse's biggest support system. I think I've learned that today.
And I think kindness. I think kindness cannot be overemphasized. When you're kind to someone, that's the friendship. You're kind to your friend. But with our spouses, before we can just be mean. But with your friend, you're kind.
Yes.
So we need to be kind. And of course, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water.
Just be careful what you
it's greener. It's probably carpet.
Yeah, go for counselling if you need to, pre-wedding or after the wedding. Water your grass, water your marriage so that it can bear good fruits that we can all enjoy.
Absolutely.
So hope you guys have enjoyed
pre
and post.
Please, and then post.
Just go. I think
post.
even continuous counselling. You don't have to wait till there's an issue.
Check in, do a check-up.
While you're married, you can actually
come for
check-up. So I go for check-up.
Medical check-up, marital check-up.
Marital check-up. Love
Bisi
it.
who are doing amazing work. So if you need any help with your marriage or premarital counselling, you can always check her out as well. Now we're moving on to our Girl Chat segment where you send us questions and we ask our guests. Don't forget to send us questions. The link is in our Instagram bio.
Yes.
So today's question. I am a newlywed who has never spent time away from my family home. I am currently married to my best friend and I am ecstatic to be spending my life with him. But it's been difficult adjusting to the new reality of my life.
Wow.
I mean, my first week had me driving all the way to my family home before realizing I am now somebody's wife. This actually happened to a friend of mine. She went to her father's house. But the week after she came, she said, wait, I'm on the wrong Yeah, it happens. Before I'm realizing I'm now somebody's wife. I find that his little dirty habits are super unbearable for me and I get easily irritated around him to the point that I feel a bit relieved when he's out of the house. I feel guilty even admitting this because I truly love my husband. What can I do to acclimatize into this new life faster?
I think that first things first, normalize that you will go to your parents' house. Don't think it's abnormal. It's not so abnormal. You are, of course, in a new situation now, and your subconscious will attempt to go with what it's used to.
Yes.
So if you find yourself driving towards, just redirect yourself. So long as you come to yourself. You see, you can even get to your parents' house and they're like, why are you here? Like, wait, why am I here? Go home, talk about that with your husband and say, guess what happened today? Because everything is grounds for connection. It creates that. If you want to connect, you can connect. Say, guess what? You can even start calling before you go, can you believe where? Oh my goodness. He's laughing at you, you're laughing, and it's all good. No big deal. Don't consider it such a big deal. It's normal. After a while, your subconscious will pick up again that, this is now the new normal. The more you open that pathway, the new pathway, the more your subconscious picks on the fact that, okay, this is where we're going now. And then just makes the shift. So, but the other part of the question where the dirty habits is not affecting you, that one is tough because that's breeding ground for resentment, offense.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is if your partner is open to counseling, my best recommendation would be don't attempt to address it yourself because I fear that you may not know how to. Just, suggest counseling without pointing at the problem. So, let's learn for ourselves. Let's, maybe check up, just and make it an ongoing conversation. Don't say now, today. That's number one. Number two is to actually recognize that you're different. So what you call dirty habit, the person is thinking, if I were single, I'll be fine on my own. So maybe, for some reason, when he wakes up, he puts his towel somewhere, drops this, when his shoe is there. If he was single in his house, maybe by weekend, he'll clean everything up.
Yes.
You see, now you want him to clean it up every day as he's speaking it. That's different. So you cannot approach it like, oh, dirty habit. Like that already gives a hint of superiority and the person would not take that lightly. Nobody takes negative traits, or even if it's true, nobody really, takes it well.
Yes,
so what you want to do is, first of all, come to that place of awareness where you understand the psychology of offense, psychology of that irritation that you're feeling. Where is it coming from? It's coming from a place of judgment. I have judged the matter. This is simply information. Allow yourself to be, in that space where this is information. I've noticed that my partner drops their towel on the bed after a bath. They don't put it back. Information. Once it's information, you can just keep your eye on them. They have the ability to pick it up. Yes. They just forget. So, but once you keep your eye on them and you're like, babe, take for instance, where I said I sat down to talk to my husband, when he's leaving, I just say, oh, babe, your towel, and he's like, yeah. And he takes it. Do you see? So once you're able to come to that place, you will find that there are solutions to that problem. If it's that he leaves his shoe, there's somebody I follow on social media who had the problem where the man would just leave his shoe. She made a rack by the door.
Since that's where that's
do you see? Yeah. So that's a solution. Just I don't want to see shoe lying around. She made a rack by the door, put it there. Just as I was leaving my house this morning, my husband has 2 sneakers on the floor. He wants somebody to wash it for him in the house. I'm thinking to myself, yesterday. So he came back home and he's like, this. I'm like, okay. Now this morning, I just woke up with this annoyance, like, why are they on the floor? And I thought to myself, actually, the solution is, I know that he wants this person. I know the room of that person. I'll just take it and go and dump in the room of that person.
Instead of
I call the person and say, this shoe, just pack it up. So there will be a solution if you're looking for it, right? Also, once you are in that zone, you can always talk about it. Not when you want the person to do it. You can tease about this. Hi, wait, why do you do this? Like, wait, do you mean that when you were single like this? For instance, when I was single, I would go to my husband's house. His bed is always laid. Everything in its place. But when we got married, it wasn't like that.
Different ballgame.
It was asking questions. I realized that he had help even when he was single. Okay. So he's the kind of person that he can scatter everything and then arrange it back. I'm the type of person to arrange things and then make sure that it doesn't get scattered for the next 2 weeks.
Yes, because I don't want to be arranging from scratch again.
Do you see? But he can arrange from scratch anytime. In fact, every blessed morning, he takes off his nightwear and he folds it. Do you see? But then again, he will not now take it off the bed. Do you see the difference? Do you see? I may not take mine off, but when I'm ready, I put it somewhere. So those things, you see, but I realized that my husband had help. He always had people around him who come and clean all this, but I didn't know. So now you have to just find out where they're coming from and approach with questions instead of like absolutes. Oh, you never do this. That's where that irritation is coming from. So seek to understand. Some sage would even say it's better to seek to understand than to be understood. Perhaps if you understand him, it would then help what questions you have or what statements you want to say that you want the person to understand. So, counseling, number 1. Number 2, show understanding, approach with questions, and seek solutions within that problem. They're there.
That's it. I think it's...
She said it all.
She's already judged the matter and said her husband is dirty, he's this, is that, but that's not the approach.
Even if he's dirty, my sister.
Wisdom.
You need to understand.
Agree,
he's not, because nobody's going to say they are dirty.
I'm dirty,
So when you already come with a negative, expect another negative. It's bass goes.
Exactly.
So don't do it a bass. Just
so that you don't receive a ghost.
So just start with kindness and questions, like you said. Why? Oh, I noticed you leave your stuff. And I think also not saying it in the moments, because usually in the moments where you notice that you taking that information, you're not in a good mood. You're like, doing that. Like you're
like how?
And anything you say shall and will be used against you. So in that moment, just be calming down. And then another time, maybe when you feel like you can address it with, with a bit more composure, you can tell.
And I think that's where self-awareness comes. Because a lot of times we feel like if I don't say it, then I'm not at peace within myself. This is so. But what that situation is trying to teach you is to be at peace from within, not necessarily from outside. So when that happens, take a deep breath and tell yourself, you know what? Whatever I'm going to say now is not the absolute. It's not the truth. It's not the entire truth. Okay, it's dirty, fact, maybe, because from my point of view. But it's not all there is to this matter. So pause and calm yourself down. Prioritize your peace. When you do that, you can then approach it.
Okay. Great. And now we have our affirmation of the week segment where we give you a card.
Okay.
Yes. What our affirmation of the week is.
Yes.
So you're going to select from one of these cards.
I know you won't try to shuffle like me.
No.
So I just pick one?
Yes. People tend to go for the middle. Why you guys always give like
everyone actually?
But no, you can do that. It's fine.
So you read it out and then you tell us what it means to you.
Take up all the space you need. This is your world too. Oh,
wow.
Yes, girl.
Take up space. All the space you need as a woman, because this is your world too.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
What it means to me, yes, I think we said it.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the woman dimension, there can be that part where you are thinking, oh, is it a man's world? Because maybe you think you get away with a lot, but maybe it's in your head. Maybe it's because you're not taking up space. Or maybe it is a man's world until you show up.
Yes.
So
until you show up. I love that. You got that.
Love it.
Yeah. Until you show up.
Well, I've shown up.
So take up space. Be you, do you, go for what you want. Sometimes nobody is really stopping you. So just walk in, So I think it's really important. Thank you.
And you find out that sometimes actually the people or the world that you think is against you is actually for you.
Yes.
You just need to show up. Especially even the men in our lives, they're actually for us, not against us.
I think everyone is looking for a leader.
Yes.
And nobody wants to actually own up or stand up and do something. They're waiting for someone to actually start it first.
Yeah.
So you do it.
You
take the lead and lead.
And I think even what we talked about with the counsel, with marriage and being together, letting your opinions be heard, letting your voice be heard. Don't just let the man decide everything and do everything. Occupy space in your home. It's your home.
Occupy space.
Occupy space. Let him know this is my territory as much as it's yours. But occupy space in a way that breeds love and joy.
Just
create the home.
Yes.
Create the environment that you want. We're natural nurturers as women anyway. We nurture. So bring your X factor, bring your grace into your marriage. Occupy space.
And do it, because you were born to actually do great things. So yes.
Oh, girls. Take up space. So hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode. Let us know. What are you using in your marriage? What are your tips and tricks for having a healthy marriage? Any issues you want us to discuss, please leave your comments in the comment section.
Yes. Yeah. And then if you've enjoyed this discussion today, please let us know. Are you in counseling? Are you and your spouse having issues? Is there something you really want to ask us? We'll always direct those questions to our guest today. So just let us know. Don't forget also to comment on this video if you've enjoyed the comments. Share with other mom friends of yours or other married friends of yours, other single friends too. They will learn a lot from what we have discussed
especially
today.
Newly married couples as well. Make sure you share it with them.
And if you're just about to walk down the aisle or you just said yes, or you will say yes sometime in your life, please also watch this video.
Definitely. And also follow us on all our social media platforms. And we will see you on the next episode of the Girl to Woman podcast.